This video was released 1 day early for my Patreon patrons, link in the description.
Hello everybody, I wanted to do a video that taught people how to use GitHub in order to learn things and do things in the Unreal Engine. Now I'm not talking about having a plugin where ChatGPT will make a game for you, but this is such a powerful tool and I don't think people know how to use it correctly. I've seen too many people assume that ChatGPT is sort of a gimmicky Google, a fancy Google. And it can be. I mean, if I go here and I start typing in the message, what are the lyrics to Numb by Linkin Park? Like, it will literally give me the lyrics to Numb by Linkin Park. People see this and they're like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. I don't really understand why it's that great. I'm just going to go ahead and stop generating real quick. So, how do we use ChatGPT to actually help us with our game development projects and pretty much everything in life, believe it or not? Well, the answer is quite simple. Context. The thing that makes ChatGPT so powerful is the fact that it can grab onto context and continue to provide useful information based on previous information. On the left-hand side, you'll see I have several chats here that I've saved because I've been building up a ton of context so I can then go back and talk to ChatGPT about these things and it will understand everything about that current situation. For example, here is my indie game I'm working on. I'm not going to click on it just in case there's spoilers, but it's filled with every detail I could give ChatGPT about my game. Here's one about search engine optimization on YouTube, my ADHD. I was learning about GitHub repositories, which is going to be a video soon. Updating my portfolio, Unreal Engine in just general. And then this is an experimental one where I said, I'm going to teach it everything I can about me and then see what kind of useful information I can get. But that's a side tangent. Let's create a scenario where we are starting to theorize and get into the pre-production of an idea that we have for a game. The earlier you start talking to ChatGPT, the more context you can build up. I'm starting pre-production on a game. Actually, that's already wrong. I'm starting pre-production on a horror game. You know what? No, more context. On a first-person horror game and wanted some ideas to flesh out all the details. So here is a basic response with, absolutely zero context aside from first-person horror game and the fact that we're in pre-production. And as you can see, it's already giving us a lot of things to consider whenever we talk about pre-production. However, we're still in the stages where this is sort of a fancy Google, right? Like, there's probably a web page that basically says roughly this information, but we do have the advantage of it specifically being about a first-person horror game, but, of course, kind of fancy Google, right? Let's add some more context to the idea that we have. I want my game to be about zombies. The player struggling to keep their inventory full of useful items and a good story to go with it. So there we added more context in the first sentence. However, let's follow it up with a question. What are some examples of good games that use systems like this? ? So basically, as you can see here, I've essentially described something like Resident Evil, but we're going to pretend that I don't know that. So let's see what ChatGPT says with the additional context followed by the question. The Last of Us is an absolutely perfect example. It's even going into the explanation of why. We have Resident Evil 2. That is another excellent game to look at if I wanted to make this game. Days Gone. And you can see we're now building even more and more context. And we're getting additional ideas and things that we can look at and explore to potentially get ideas for our game. So some of you still might not be convinced. Some of you might be going, okay, you're still essentially using fancy Google. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this, which this isn't scripted, by the way. This is all happening in real time with me. So this could absolutely counter my point and go backfire. What if I wanted to add happy unicorns to my game? Do you think that would be a good fit? Adding happy unicorns to a horror game might not be the best fit, as it could potentially distract from the serious and scary atmosphere. So here's the thing. That might seem like an obvious answer, but if we go back to my indie game, which again, I don't know if there's spoilers, so I just can't show it. But I went through and I gave it every single detail, okay? And I said, these are the things that I want to accomplish. Here's what's in the game already. Help me out. And essentially, what I'll do now is I'll say, but if I wanted to add an additional system, so let's start describing a system to ChatGPT about our horror game, and then see how it wants to combine the additional system that we're thinking about making. So let's say I have a system in place that stores all of the player's inventory information, but I'm trying to add a keyring system to the game as well. I want these to be separate systems. How would I go about combining these systems so they work together? This is actually where I'm going to add. I don't think I've said in Unreal yet, have I? Just to be clear. No, I haven't. I'm using Unreal Engine 5. To combine your inventory system and keyring system in Unreal Engine 5, you could create a new data structure that represents a collection of items such as a struct or class. This data structure could contain separate arrays or lists for the player's inventory and keyring, allowing them to be managed independently but still stored within the same overall data structure. Now, the thing about ChatGPT to remember is it does tend to want to side on the C++ or the C# side of things, but we can tell it specifically, I'm using Blueprint and not C#. Can you try to explain but using the Blueprint system? Sure, I can explain using Blueprint in Unreal Engine 5. To create a data structure that stores both inventory and keyring information, you can create a new Blueprint class by right-clicking the content browser, selecting Blueprint class, and from there choose Actor as the parent class. So as you can see, it's continuing to build context and more context and more context. So now it knows that we have an inventory system. It knows we're using Blueprint. It knows we're using Unreal Engine 5. It knows we're making a horror game, so on, so on, so on, and so on. So as I continue to talk to this thing, it's going to continue to build more and more context. And look, it's still going. It is telling me right now, word for word, how we're going to create this system. Now, I will warn you, this is a fair warning ahead of time. ChatGPT does not always give you the truth. There are times ChatGPT is incorrect, and you need to remember that. So if you go to try to do something and it doesn't work, let ChatGPT know, and it will usually do its best to correct itself. It's also worth noting that you shouldn't ask it super hyper specific questions about like science and then 100% believe it, simply due to the potential of misinformation. But for our context and the context of creating games, we'll know if it's wrong because it just won't work. However, I haven't come across a situation where it's completely wrong yet. It's usually, if it is wrong, it's correct in its way of thinking. It just might have the wrong node name stored or something like that. And this is when I'm going to announce my new project, which is going to be done alongside creating a horror game from scratch. We're going to be creating a horror game by only using the answers given to us by ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT does not have to 100% micromanage my movements. For example, it doesn't have to specifically say, right-click, create blueprint, go to event graph, okay? It can be a little bit more vague, like create a blueprint, add this function, right? However, it can't be super macro to the point that it's saying, make horror game. And then I'm like, well, ChatGPT told me to. And you didn't know it, but you're now watching the very first episode. And that's the announcement mentioned in the title. Let's do this. First things first, let's go ahead and delete our current chat, and we're gonna go ahead and start a new one. Warning before we get started, there is a chance that OpenAI will delete these chats. If that happens, that's just a part of it, I guess, and I will have to do my best to refill in ChatGPT with the context, but I'm super excited, so let's get started. Hey ChatGPT, we're going to work together to make a horror game for my YouTube channel, Dark Slayer TV. I will be your oh goodness, I can't spell, metaphorical hands as we decide on what to make. Hello, it's great to work with you. Let's get started. What kind of horror game are you thinking of creating? Do you have any specific ideas in mind, or do you need help brainstorming? Actually, ChatGPT, I was hoping you could pick either first person or third person. You can pick randomly or choose the one you'd like to do. I don't have personal preference, blah, 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 blah. And then he's giving us a description of first and third person perspective. So let's see what he said at the bottom, or she, or AI language. I'm just gonna use random pronouns, so don't attack me. Ultimately, the choice between first person and third person perspective will depend on the specific vision and goals of your horror game. What kind of experience do you want to create for your audience? What kind of experience do you... I have to avoid using words like think and what's your opinion and stuff like that, because it will always yell at me and be like, I can't do that. So I'm gonna have to learn how to talk with ChatGPT to give me the answers I want. We'll use, you know what? You know what? Think about it like this. You always want to make the game that you think is going to be the best, right? And with this being an AI language, it's probably going to use statistics to find that out. Our first person or third person horror games sorry, I suck at spelling. Statistically more popular. There's no clear consensus. Okay. Some highly popular horror games are Outlast, Amnesia in first person, Resident Evil, and Dead Space for third person. It's worth noting that first person has become more popular in recent years. There it is. That's what I'm going to use as ChatGPT's answer. Okay, so we'll make a first person horror game. I'll start by making the project. What do you want? Oh, I can't use the word want, it'll yell at me. I'll just specifically ask, what should I name the project? Naming your horror game project is important. You may want to consider blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's giving me some options. So what I'll do now is I'll say, pick a random number between 1 and 10. 8. So how about Eerie Asylum? All right, we're making the first person horror game Eerie Asylum with ChatGPT. Let's go ahead and copy that. Let's head over to Unreal Engine. We're going to go to games. We're going to go to first person, project name, Eerie Asylum. Oh, it's got a space. Let's get rid of that. Well, I'm so excited. Here we go. All right, we're inside of our template. However, we have no idea what we're going to do except the fact that it's first person, which of course comes by default with the first person template. However, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. We have to remember that pre-production is absolutely important regardless of whether ChatGPT is doing it or not, because all that context that we build with the pre-production is going to ultimately give us a ton of context for ChatGPT, but it'll help us create the game as well. So I'll be doing a lot of the pre-production off screen because obviously a lot of that's just going to be documenting this stuff. Okay, let's go with Eerie Asylum as our game title. Let's start brainstorming some ideas for the setting, story, and gameplay. Dude, I think ChatGPT's starting to get this. What sort of settings are good for horror games. Horror games can be a wide variety of locations: abandoned places, haunted houses, forests, okay, small towns, otherworldly realms. I think we go with abandoned places because look, ChatGPT even mentioned specifically asylums. So let's go with abandoned places. So that way the eerie asylum makes sense. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's just giving me it's just giving me the stuff. Story: the player takes on the role of a journalist investigating the history of an abandoned asylum. The asylum was shut down years ago due to reports of abuse and neglect of the patients. Wait, isn't this literally that one game? Hold on, what's it called? Outlast is a terrifying first-person horror game starring Miles Upshur, an investigative journalist who finds himself at the infamous Mount Massive Asylum. Hold on, let me get a description of Outlast really quick, because if that's exactly what this is, then we need to be a little bit more unique than that. Outlast is a 2013 first-person survival horror game developed by blah blah blah. In Outlast, a player assumes the role of a journalist who investigates the hospital that is overrun with homicidal patients. Receives an anonymous email that inhumane experiments are being conducted. Okay, ChatGPT, we got to be a little bit more unique than that. Let's try that again, but let's mix it up. Let's try mixing it up. What type of setting would you like to explore for your horror game? No. Give me story and gameplay ideas, but don't copy Outlast. The player takes the role of a paranormal investigator. Here we go. Hired by a wealthy family to investigate their mansion. The mansion is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of familiar who were involved in a series of occult rituals and mysterious disappearances. The gameplay would involve exploration of the mansion, with the player searching for clues and items. Another possible setting could be an isolated research facility located in a remote, snowy wilderness. I like that story idea, but how about it's in an abandoned asylum? The story takes the role of a paranormal investigator who was hired by a wealthy family to investigate an abandoned asylum. There we go. That was once used to treat patients with mental illnesses. That's fine. The asylum has been abandoned for decades and rumored to be haunted by ghosts. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Let me go ahead and start documenting this. If you broke that gameplay down into a list of systems, what would that look like? Exploration, hazards, paranormal investigation tools, stealth, combat, puzzles, psychological effects, notes and recordings, sanity system, multiple endings. ChatGPT, do you not know what creep? Do you know what scope creep is? Well, for now, this is the list of mechanics we need to make. So this will be the first thing we do after this episode, is going to be adding as many of these as we can. And after we get these systems working, we'll start adding additional stuff. Just in case, I'm going to have ChatGPT decide which ones it likes the least here. So that way we can have a smaller set of mechanics in case we need to lower the scope down. Remove a couple from that list. Combat and puzzles. Oh, so it's saying combat and puzzles are the two that it's thinking maybe not. So it still wants exploration, it wants hazards, it wants tools, psychological effects, notes and recordings, sanity system, and multiple endings. I actually think that makes way more sense. I think ChatGPT's right, because combat can be an absolute biatch to add, and puzzles require a lot of level design. However, to be honest, with the paranormal investigation tools, we're essentially going to be having puzzles. So I think this is good. In the documentation, I'm going to mark both combat and puzzles as potentially getting rid of them. So for the sake of watchability, I think what I'm going to do is say that's it for pre-production as for the video. Now, anytime I go to do something in a future episode that involves information that might not have been shared here, I'm going to be like, so here is when ChatGPT said this thing. That's why we're going to do it that way. Unless you guys like me actually doing ChatGPT on screen. This is something new, something fun I wanted to do. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Seriously, if you maybe you have ideas of how this should be produced, or different ways to edit it, or even that you hate it and don't want to see it anymore. Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.